Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, August the 21st, 2018. Good to have you all here for our first and only show of this week. Hope your week is treating you well so far. Before we get going, as always, let me remind you all of the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight401@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at IT Spotlight 411. Remember to use the hashtag IT Spotlight 411 for anything you tweet regarding the show. And of course, as always, you can find us on Facebook to search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure you like our fan page. And so you can follow us and all that good stuff. All right. So we got some stuff on we don't have a lot tonight, but we have enough here. Enough to talk about. I didn't put this in the show description yet, but we're gonna start off by talking about this because I said we'd talk about last week and we couldn't. Tiger Woods and the whole PGA Championship thing. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight and the implications of that because that was obviously a big event. We just didn't have the time last week with the award stuff and everything. So we'll talk about that along with anything from a lot of stuff from Major League Baseball. We're getting down to the final 5 weeks or so of the regular season. So obviously we're getting down to the nitty gritty there. And we'll also talk about the big news today out of baseball, the Washington Nationals, who are pretty much starting a fire sale. And we'll talk about the absurdity of that and why, and I'll tell you why it is absurd and why they're, especially at this point in the season and given where they're at. We'll talk about that. And then of course we will talk about, we got more in sports going on. We got some entertainment. We got 2 weeks worth of box office numbers to take a look at. We're going to talk about the continuing James Gunn saga because that had some major developments over the past week. And we will talk, and then of course we'll jump into some wrestling. We'll talk about SummerSlam, Raw, SmackDown, all that good stuff here on the program tonight. A couple of things, couple of little announcements. Next week, next Tuesday, is the deadline for the winning ballots for the In the Spotlight TV Awards. So make sure you get those in by 9 o'clock from Eastern Time next Tuesday. That will be August the 28th. And for those of you that are, and of course, those are only people with ballots. And for those of you that are participating in the live voted awards, nomination submissions for that are due next Tuesday. So get those in by 9 o'clock from Eastern Time next Tuesday if you could. So 2 very important deadlines next Tuesday. And then, of course, the following week will be the actual awards. So we're getting close to that. Very close to a lot of things. To start a football season. So we're getting close to a lot of things. It's exciting times here. Very exciting times. So very exciting time of year, I should say. A lot of things going on. And I've been getting a lot of mail. I've been kind of putting it off. I'm going to have to put it off again because I'm not ready to really get into some things here tonight. But we have some big announcements in relation to the show that are going to be coming up here. We'll probably make those announcements next Tuesday. But bear with us here because right now I'm trying to narrow some stuff down. But there will be some announcements coming in regards to the show. So be aware of that going forward here. So for those of you wondering, you'll get some information on that probably next week, more than likely next week. I think it's going to have to be next week because otherwise it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to, it won't give you enough time to kind of adjust to everything. So we'll talk more about that next week. Last week's TV award nominations were a pretty big success despite the fact we started so late. I want to apologize again for that. But yeah, they were a pretty big success. So we're very happy about that. I think we'll have a tremendous event in a couple weeks here. So always good. The TV award season is always very good. Film award season always very good. So thank you again for your participation and contributions to that. Please remember though, any award submissions, okay, whether it's the live voted award nomination submissions or winning ballots, only by email only. You can ask questions by email, Facebook, and Twitter, but submissions can be only done by email only, please. So make sure that you remember that. Okay. So with that being said, let's get down to business here and let's get into some actual discussion and have some fun here. So I said we'd start. We're gonna do a little bit. We're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna kind of go back and forth between topics. Lately we've been like starting in entertainment and then moving on. I'm gonna do a little bit of sports. Going to do some entertainment. Throw in a little bit of wrestling, and then we'll end with some sports stuff. And that's how we'll roll here tonight. I think it's fun to kind of spice things up a little bit every now and then. So as I said, I put this off last week because we just didn't have the time. But we do have to talk about Tiger Woods and what happened in the PGA Championship last weekend, the weekend before last. First of all, I think it's very important to not only take the performance of Tiger in the PGA Championship, but also in the Open Championship a couple of weeks prior. Because if you look at those two tournaments, okay, he was very close. He was in it right into the last day on at the Open Championship. And then, of course, he made a big push at the PGA Championship as well, which is, again, this is the first time in how long have we seen Tiger really, truly factor into multiple majors in a season, and especially back-to-back. I thought the PGA Championship performance was better than the Open Championship performance, and here's why. What I liked about what I saw from Tiger was he was unflappable in at the PGA Championship. At the Open Championship, once he hit that first roadblock, he kind of came back down, cut down a little bit, and fell back, and that was the end of the push. If you watch his trajectory at the PGA Championship last weekend, he made his ascension, Saturday, always the big push. And once he got up there, he stayed up there. He had a couple of drop backs, but he went back up. He came back up, and he kept himself in it. And right into the end, really, if you think about it, he came in second. So just a very good performance. And look, here's the thing that I think people need to remember, because, over the last few seasons, years or seasons, whatever you want to call it, we've been waiting for Tiger to show us signs that he can be. Most people, if you go up to him, if you're a golf fan, or even just a fan that wants to see Tiger do well, most people will say, well, I want Tiger Woods back. You're not going to get Tiger Woods back. Okay? He's too old for that now. He's had too many injuries for that now. He's not superhuman, folks. You were never going to get Tiger Woods back. When anybody, myself or any other, critic says, well, we're looking for Tiger Woods to make a comeback, we're looking for Tiger Woods to be competitive. We're looking for Tiger Woods to be in the mix. And if you watch this golf season, this PGA season, all right, especially the last two majors of the season, he was competitive. First half of the season was a little dicey, but the second half of the season, he did very, very well. You saw progress, and even though there were times when he didn't have his best swing, he was competitive and he was in it. He does not have that intimidation factor. Guys on tour are not going to be shaking in their boots when Tiger is charging anymore. At least not until he wins a major or two. All right? And here's the thing. Tiger inspired most of today's young golfers. They all do what he used to do. They all swing like him. They all, play like him. He inspired those guys. So he inspired a whole new wave of golfer. Okay? And in doing so, that makes it very hard for Tiger to do to really be as dominant as he once was. Even if Tiger got back up to the level of play that he once had, that level of play that he once was at, I don't think he would be able to dominate like he did, because the golfer, today's golfer, the young golfers of today, are molded in the form of Tiger Woods. So it'd make it harder for Tiger to be able to dominate compared to when he came on the scene and everybody was playing the old school way of golf. Without the explosiveness, without the athleticism, without the power swing. It's a different game now. And Tiger the game has caught up to Tiger. And that was always going to happen, whether Tiger was injured or everything was messed up for him or not. But here's the difference between what we can say about Tiger now compared to maybe even 2 months ago. For the first time since before all this started, you can say that Tiger Woods will likely win a major before at least one more major before his career is done. 2 months ago, I wouldn't have said that. I had all but given up on that notion. I had written him off. I did not like what I was seeing. Even in the first half of the season, even though he was playing better, I still didn't like what I was seeing. I couldn't say what I just said with any feeling of confidence. I can now. And that says a lot about how far he has come in the last 2 months. And the PGA has to be over the moon because, boy, have they set the stage. And I know the season's pretty much over. We got the Ryder Cup, and Tiger should be on that team, and that'll help that event. But I know the season's pretty much over. But boy, did you end this season on a high note. You had 2 great final majors where a lot of big names were in the mix: Spieth, Woods, Rory. You have Tiger and a lot of your best golfers with strong momentum going into next season. The Masters next year is going to be as long as everybody stays healthy, including Tiger, especially Tiger, the Masters next year is going to be such a tremendous event. Even more so than this year. This year had a lot of hype. The PGA is going to go into next year with a lot of hype and a lot of momentum. And if things play out the way they did at the end of this season, and this major season, they're going to be in some great shape. You saw the ratings at the end of the season with the Open Championship and the PGA Championship. If they're going to do even better if this momentum carries into next season, and I think it will. As long as everybody stays healthy, I think it will. They will have a great foundation and a great starting point for the new PGA season next year, especially once the Masters comes around. They'll have a great foundation. So, good for them. Good for them because they needed it. Golf needed it. Golf needed it. And you could say whatever. You don't have to like Tiger. You might feel like, oh, why is it always about Tiger? There's plenty of other guys. Tiger brings attention to the sport. He transcends the sport. And until somebody does what he does and revolutionizes the game and causes a stir like he did, it's just the way it's going to be. I know there's a lot of great players now, and they're all molded in Tiger's image. And, there's guys like Spieth and Roy and Phil. And I know there's other guys, and there's a lot of young guys like Kopka who's been great this season. He's on the roll. But Tiger is in a different class in terms of what he brings to the table. He is a draw. He brings attention. He brings flash bulbs and media and tons of spectacle where he is. Sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. But he brings attention to the sport, and then when you bring attention to the sport, it's good for everybody. Guys that would never, ever, ever become household names will become household names just by being in the tournament and being in there with Tiger Woods. And that's important. So great end to the major season for the PGA. It was a great tournament, the PGA Championship, as was the Open Championship. Great way for golf to kind of wind down here and build up for next season, which I look forward to now because it's going to be exciting with the way everything is going. So, all right, so I wanted to start with that. We move on now. We're going to jump out of sports for a little bit. We're going to jump into a little bit of entertainment, do some box office stuff really quickly because even though we have 2 weeks worth of numbers to go over, there's not much that can be said about those numbers because we're in that kind of lull period. We're in the middle of August now, and not that there isn't things to talk about, but we all know it's kind of a lull here. Well, the box office has kind of lucked out because the last 2 weekends could have been disasters, and they weren't. Let's go back to the previous weekend. The Meg ends up surprising the hell out of everybody, including myself. I thought that movie was going to totally flop. Pulls in $45.4 million in its opening weekend, which is a tremendous number. The only movie that I thought had the potential to do that weekend was Slender Man because I thought maybe horror it'll be maybe a little bit of a horror push because that movie obviously it's folklore and there's a lot of things behind it. But that movie ended up not doing so well. I mean, it was only a $10 million budget, so then it ends up making a minimal profit, but only put in $11.3 million, coming in fourth. And the other new release that weekend was Black Klansman, which only came in $10.8 million in fifth, which is actually a little more than I thought. It's only a $15 million budget, so that movie will end up being okay too. Both that movie and Slender Man, small budget movies, so they'll end up being okay. But I thought maybe those two movies could potentially do better. But the Meg doing much better than expected, and look, it needed that $130 million budget. It needed that. It's made $318.1 million worldwide, which is it's very good. So that ends up giving the box office a boost that it wasn't expecting. We thought we were done with those kind of movies for the summer. Turns out we're not. And you know what's interesting about the Meg? When you think about where summer blockbusters originated, like way back in the 70s and early 80s, what was the first true summer blockbuster? Jaws. Which was a campy shark disaster type movie. And here's the Meg, kind of in that same vein, doing something that we all thought it couldn't do. Kind of ironic if you think about it. So a huge boost for the box office, the Meg was. That weekend, dropping from first to second, and its third weekend was Mission Impossible Fall with 19.3, which is very good for its third week. Disney's Christopher Robin went from second to third with 12.9 million, which is not too bad given where it was for its second week. I mentioned Slender Man and Black Klansman. Slender Man at 1.3 million, Black Klansman 10.8 million. Then after that, you had The Spy Who Dumped Me, which dropped from third to sixth with 6.4 million. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, dropped from fourth to seventh with 5.8. Equalizer 2, fifth, dropping from fifth to eighth with 5.4 million. Hotel Transylvania 3, dropping from sixth to ninth with 5.2 million. So all in all, 9 movies over 5 million, 5 movies over 10, not too bad. You have a movie that overperforms in the Meg, 2 movies that do okay enough as holdovers in Mission Impossible and Christopher Robin. Slender Man, Black Klansman could have done better, but they could have done worse. So all in all, ends up not being a bad week. Ends up getting a little bit more of a boost than you thought because of the Meg. The Dog Days was another new release that weekend. It came in 12th with 2.5 million, which we all thought would finish under 5 million. So not shocking there. So it ends up being that weekend ended up being a little bit more of a better weekend than people anticipate because of the Meg. Now, as good as the Meg did in its first weekend, in its second weekend, it fell hard. But again, because of its opening weekend, it's already in good shape. But its fall allowed a movie that I thought could be a sleeper hit to do reasonably well. And that movie was Crazy Rich Asians, which came in first in its first weekend with 26.5 million. It's only a $30 million budget. And it's already over that with 39.5. So it's going to be okay. That movie, of course, pretty much an all Asian cast. Comedy, a little bit of drama elements, nice mixture. From my understanding, a very good film. And kind of put in this month to see what it could do, and it did pretty well. That's a good number for middle late August. So another nice little boost for the box office. The Meg in its second weekend dropped 53% to 21.1 million, which all in all isn't bad considering how well it did its first weekend. Mile 22. I thought would do a little bit better, but given how good the Meg did and Crazy Rich Asians did, it's not a surprise to see the Meg debut in third with about 13.7 million. It's not horrible, but it's not great. It's got a $50 million budget, so it probably won't hit that mark, especially since it's R-rated. So not good, but not terrible either. Mission Impossible Fallout dropped from second to fourth with 10.7 million, which in its fourth week isn't too bad. And then in its first weekend, Alpha debuted with 10.3 million. It's got a $51 million budget. It's only at 11.6 million. This movie was delayed a couple times, and I really think that took a lot of the wind out of its sails. And I also think releasing it this month was a mistake because you already have enough family films in the mix. But Christopher Robin and Hotel Transylvania 3, even Mamma Mia can classify as a family film. You've had Incredibles this summer. There's been quite a bit of family films in the last few weeks. So I don't know. They probably, they delayed it a couple times. It lost some steam. They probably would have been better off holding off on it maybe a little longer, or they probably should have released it when they were supposed to. But anyway, not great there. So that's probably going to be a little bit of a loss. Dropping from third to sixth, Christopher Robin with 8.8 million in its third week. Black Klansman dropping from fifth to seventh with 7.3 million. Everything else finished under 5 million, including Slender Man, which just barely finished under 5 million with 4.8 million, dropping from fourth to eighth. So you're starting to see signs. that you're getting to that period of summer where everybody's trying to get their last minute vacations in, trying to wrap things up, back to school shopping, a lot of stuff going on. And you're seeing that reflected in the box office, which had not a bad start to the month of August. But here in the back half of the month, you see some drop offs in terms of movie going, but again, we've seen worse. When your number one movie is still making $26 million at the end of August, that's not bad. All in all, you still end up with 7 movies over $5 million and 5 movies over 10. That's not too bad for the latter half of August. That's actually pretty good. So all in all, it's not bad at the box office right now. Here, a couple of surprises here. The Meg, obviously, Crazy Rich Asians. And some movies continue to hold up well in Mission Impossible, Christopher Robin, etc. So now we set the stage for really what amounts to the last weekend of summer box office. There will be a couple movies released Labor Day weekend, but I'm going to be fair here. This is it. This is it, because these movies will probably have a chance at making a decent profit, while the ones next week will probably just be forgotten about. You have 2 new releases this week, and the biggest release is a comedy, The Happy Time Murders, from STX Entertainment, opening in 3,225 theaters, starring Melissa McCarthy, Joel McHale, Maya Rudolph, and Elizabeth Banks. This movie was delayed a week, but that won't hurt it. It's R-rated. You've probably seen some advertisements for it. It's also stirred some controversy because there was a worry about kids confusing it with like Sesame Street or a family movie or a kids movie. This movie can go one of 2 ways. It can either be a surprise big hit, or it could be a complete flop. I'm tending to veer towards surprise hit because it's getting a high theater count, which suggests there's enough interest to justify that. Because otherwise, in late August, I couldn't see it getting this kind of theater count. Melissa McCarthy has a fan base, and also this movie has flash. It's different. It's unique. And there haven't been too many big comedies this year, especially R-rated comedies. And this is a kind of comedy that's, it's gonna grab attention from people. It's different. And if it can do what, Team America World Police did or South Park did with their movie and do something like that, then that would have been a success. And I think it could pull that in. It won't pull a huge number, but it could draw some eyes, and I think it will. So the other movie is the big release this coming weekend, is on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm trying to see which way you pronounce this. I'm going to pronounce it both ways in hopes that way I cover my bases. It's either Axel or AXL. It's a family adventure film from Global World Films, opening in 1,695 theaters. It's not a high theater count, probably not figuring out much going on there. Pretty much unknown cast, so you want to talk about Thomas Jane. That's about it. PG, again, we've had a lot of family films lately. I don't see it doing very much, maybe 5, 6, 7 million. That's about it. So prediction time, because there's not much else to talk about here. I'm going to predict Happy Time Murders first place with about 20 to 22 million. It could make more than that. I don't think it'll make less, Nick. I think it's going to get some attention. I'm going to go with Crazy Rich Asians in second with around 13, 14 million. The Meg around 10, 11. Mission Impossible around 8, 9. Mile 22 around 7. I think Alpha drop around maybe 6. Let's go Christopher Robin 6.5. Alpha around 6. Axel around maybe 5.5, 6. Black Klansman around 5 million. That's how I see this weekend going in terms of box office numbers and standings. All right, so that covers this weekend. Coming up next weekend, as I said, there will be 2 movies being released, although I don't expect them to do much at all, given the weekend and given the fact I don't think many people know about them. Both these movies have been pretty much tossed out there by their studios and see what they can make of. We got a sci-fi action film called Kin from Lionsgate, and Ya Veremos, a dramedy from Pantheon. So those are your 2 movies that are being released next weekend. Also, MGM will be releasing a film called Operation Finale, a thriller, on Wednesday, next August 29th, starring Oscar Isaac and Ben Kingsley. So that'll be out there too. It'll get a wide release, so that'll be in play too. But really, none of those films I expect to do huge amounts of business. And then after that, we get into the fall movie season. And there'll be a couple. I don't expect much the first weekend of September. We'll at least for our first full weekend of September. But the weekend after that, you could see some things start to pan out that could draw some big eyes and draw some attention. So, all right, so that's the box office beat for this week. Now, before we exit out of entertainment, I mentioned we talk about James Gunn and the continuing saga that is James Gunn. Big news over the last week. Apparently, James Gunn had a meeting with Disney. And, Disney had Alan Horn. After a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks of the fact that, Kevin Feige and Marvel wanted him back, that things have, there's a potential for him to come back. After all this discussion, apparently he has this meeting and it's announced that he will not be back, that they will not be bringing James Gunn back, that Guardians 3 will go on without him. No idea if the production will start on time, which I think it's supposed to start in January. There's been a lot of talk about whether his script will be used. Dave Bautista saying that he would quit if the script wasn't used. It looks like the script will be used, but obviously if you get a different director, you all know the drill. A lot of times directors like to put their own stamp on projects, and that's their right. So we'll see what happens with that. No word if they'd go stay in-house for a director or go out. I would assume that they'll go find somebody, because it seems like a lot of the in-house people that people would want or think would be a good fit for Guardians, Jon Favreau, Taika Waititi, I think are busy with other projects. So I don't think that they'll be available for that. But who knows? Maybe things will change. Maybe they'll push the production back. I don't know. Nonetheless, James Gunn will not be directing Guardians 3. Whether he can, the feeling I get, okay, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this, it's yet to be determined, obviously, is that Marvel wants him back, and that maybe there's a potential down the road for him to come back and do other projects for them. The problem is that right now it's just too much of a hot button issue, and there's just too much out there. Just when it looked like things had quieted down, then there was those pictures that surfaced from that, pedophilia party or supposed pedophilia. There's a lot of stuff out there. Pedophilia influence, I guess they're calling it. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Either way, I guess the best way to describe it is that they were controversial pictures that surfaced right a couple days before he had this meeting. So that didn't help matters. I think if you're Disney and you're Marvel, you don't want to be constantly deflecting things from coming out. And obviously there's going to be this desire to keep dredging things up from the past. And James Gunn, regardless of what side you come down on, the guy was provocative. He is provocative. He said things. There's pictures. There's a lot of things that can keep being dredged up that, really, if you're Disney and Marvel, you don't want to have to keep answering for. You don't want to be on the red carpet for a movie premiere and then we're talking about this again, or we're talking about something new. You don't want to be constantly on the defensive. And I think that was a big part of this, is that, hey, you know what? Let's just not do this. Let's go in a different direction. Maybe down the road when things quiet down, we bring you back. I think that's really what it came down to. I think that's really what came down for Marvel's hey, we know what we want. We like you, but at the same time, we don't want to have to keep dealing with this. And if things are going to keep popping up, then it's just not worth it anymore to do this. To even try to fix this and go forward with you. So I can understand that. And look, it's a difficult issue. We've talked a lot about that over the last couple of weeks. Whether he should be fired, whether he shouldn't been. I'm not going to go back into that. All I'm going to say is I think this is probably, in my mind, based on what's going on right now, it's for the best. I think it's for the best for James Gunn. I think it's for the best for Disney and Marvel, because it's just at this point it's just going to be, if you keep him on board, there's always going to be stuff going on. It's going to take away from what you're trying to do, and it's something you just don't want to deal with. It's a headache you don't want to deal with right now. It's just not going to go away until things kind of just quiet down. And as long as he's connected with Disney and Marvel and their project, it was not going to quiet down at this point. It just wasn't. It just wasn't. So you cut the cord, let him go off on his own, let him go make another movie or two, and kind of, let's just, let time kind of go by, and then revisit things in about a year or so and see where you're at. And if things have quieted down, and maybe, and who knows what else, maybe there's been, maybe he's had a couple movies that have done okay, and, things have kind of settled, and, I'm not sure what he could really do to kind of improve things, but, I think the biggest thing in this that will help him is time. And people kind of just like, you know what, it's old news now. We're not going to talk about it anymore. That would probably be the biggest thing that could help him. But I digress. Yeah. I think time is the greatest thing. It could be the greatest thing for him. Just get away from things right now. Go make a couple movies that are under the radar. Maybe one big movie that gets a little bit of attention, and kind of be like, hey, you know what? I made a couple movies since I've been gone. I think things have quieted down. Maybe we can, take a chance on this now, and then see what and we'll see what Disney and Marvel say, and you go from there. Although I don't think James will reach out to them. I think they'd have to reach out to him. I don't think he's going to, because I think he's going to be like, well, you know what? I don't know how they feel and everything. It's going to have to come from them. So I should take that back and say, maybe Disney and Marvel just keeps tabs on him, and then you see where he's at in a year, and if things are in a different place and things have quieted down, maybe you take a chance on him again. If they haven't, then you stay away from them. It's bottom line. So it is what it is. It's a sad situation, and it's either way you look at it, and it is what it is. I don't blame Disney and Marvel for what they for making this decision. I think it is the best decision. I think it's the best decision for James Gunn right now, because you don't want to be constantly dealing with this. You just don't. I don't think he should have to constantly deal with this anymore, and I don't think Disney and Marvel should. The only way it's ever going to truly go away, and the only way that you're going to ever move on from it, is to just he has to be out of the spotlight, which he will be for now, and Disney and Marvel has to move on. And that's what they're doing. And look, James can do whatever he wants the next year. Would it hurt him to come out and be, condemn the things he did in the past? Well, he's already done that multiple times. So I don't think it's going to really help. He's going to go in the next year. He's going to do interviews, and he's going to say things. He's going to say all the right things, and people are going to, and people are just, the people that, are against them are going to say, it's going to go over their heads. And they're going to say, you know what, we don't care what you say. We still don't like what you did, blah, 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 blah. And the people that support him are going to be like, okay, we know this about you, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to change anybody's mind. It's not going to change a thing. So him going on some, big press junket and trying to defuse the situation and trying to, apologize, he's not going to do it because he's already done it. He's already said the right things, apologized, and did these things. And nothing has changed. People still, the people that wanted him fired, still wanted him fired, and the people that didn't, still didn't. Nothing he says and does in the next year is going to improve his standing. The only thing that can happen is that with time, it kind of fades from people's consciousness, and it no longer is a big hot topic of discussion. And when things quiet down, maybe Disney and Marvel can take a chance on and say, come back, and you have a new project for you, and we'll see what happens. That's the way I think it has to go. If he should come back. Because there's no guarantee he will. I'm just saying I don't think that door is closed. I think he could come back. But again, I don't think he can really do anything to help his standing in his situation. I think time is just going to help it, if anything. So the James Gunn situation continues on. We'll see what happens with Guardians and what happens, who gets the director's job, and what happens with the script and all going forward. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. All right. So that's all the entertainment stuff we have. We now jump to some wrestling, and we'll start by talking about SummerSlam, which really, obviously, one of the WWE's biggest pay-per-views of the year, one of their big four. If not Royal Rumble, it's SummerSlam. It's their second biggest event of the year. And look, there were a number of big hot button matches, but this wasn't, even though there was some very good matches on this card, it didn't feel like a big deal this year, SummerSlam. It just didn't. Maybe because you're getting Reigns and Lesnar again for the 500th time. Maybe it's because the way WWE treated it, I felt like we've been building to this for so long. Um, that maybe it just took some of the air. I don't know. It just didn't feel like a big deal this year. Um, and maybe it's because a lot of it was predictable. I don't know. I didn't think the event was that bad. I thought a lot of the matches were really good. Rowan Ziggler was very good. I thought all the pre-show matches were good. I didn't mind the squash match. I thought that it was good. I thought Braun had to do that to Owens. I thought that I think Finn Balor and Corbin could have been a more of a match, but that we've had that match so much. I guess I can get deal. And plus it's the Demon, which I don't understand why they just they did the Demon Balor. I don't know why they did that. There was no need for that. The feud didn't call for that. It just looked like a way to be like, well, let's just do something special at SummerSlam because it's a match we've done before. It just was kind of forced. I mean, once you did the Demon, I guess I understood the squash match, but still, I just thought it was unnecessary. Ronda squashing Alexa, I thought was necessary. AJ Joe was great. I love the finish. I'm glad that WWE is doing more character stuff and telling stories instead of just being the same old like we're gonna fight over the title. Da 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 da. I love that they're telling stories again. Look at what Miz and Daniel Bryan's been 8 years in the making, and Joe and Styles, and I like that. That's what we need, more stories. I feel like the last couple of years you haven't had that, but now they're telling stories again, which is what happened to NXT, which is what makes it so good. They're doing that in the main roster a little bit now, which I think is going to help them so much going forward, and if they continue to do it. Miz Daniel Bryan, I thought was exactly what I thought Miz had to win that, and the way that they did it was fine. I thought Miz had to win that because that can't be a one. In fact, they can get that feud to WrestleMania. That's what they should do. And judging by the way they handled tonight, I think they will. So we'll see if I'm right about that, but I think that's the way to go. The main event was obviously the biggest topic of Ronda Rousey, but we all knew she was going to win that, so that wasn't. And I didn't mind, the Bella thing in the ring with her and Natty and everything. I loved the moment with Natty and Natty wearing her father's jacket. May he rest in peace. That was great. But obviously the main event was the big topic. What will happen with Brock? Will he retain? There was a meeting. There's talk about, Randy Orton had a meeting with Vince, and Daniel Bryan had a meeting with Vince, and Brock had a meeting with Vince. All these meetings, and but Brock was the big one. What would happen with Lesnar? Would he retain again? Will Reigns finally win? Would Braun cash in? Would Reigns win and Braun cash in? Would Braun cash in the middle of the match? So much going on, and you have to if you're somebody that really follows WWE, okay, and you've been dealing with this Roman Reigns thing for the last couple years, and you're like, and you've seen what's happened and how they tried to get him cheered and all this stuff. You followed this. You had to be watching that final match and going, boy, they really came up with a genius way to not get booed out of the building. And they probably got booed after. I think they did get booed after they went off the air. But that was a genius thing to do. Oh, let's bring Braun Strowman out so people are fixated on that and they're cheering him and that, right? And take all the attention off of Reigns and Lesnar. Let's have Reigns get the up on Lesnar at the beginning of the match, and let's get things moving. Not start off slow and prodding. Not have Brock dominate. We're gonna have Braun. People are gonna cheer him. Oh wait, we can't have Braun look cheap. We have to figure out a way around the cash in, right? So, Brock's gonna attack him, and he's gonna throw the case and throw it at the Megatron, and he's gonna break the screen, and it's gonna be people are gonna be so fixated on that. And look, we found a way for Lesnar to lose without looking that bad. He took his eyes off of Reigns. Boom, there's your pin. And but we gotta make sure we get off the air before, people really start to realize they've been duped. Okay, let's turn the mics down. Let's turn the mics down, turn the crowd control down, right? Let's do that. Let's get off the air. And that's what they did. It was I had to admit, it was pretty genius. They thought that sucker out, man. They really did. And look, and here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. they've been dragging us through the mud on this for so long that you had pretty much a large percentage of the audience that was fighting the Roman Reigns thing, just saying, you know what, we just want the title on the show, on Raw, and we just want it off Brock Lesnar. You pretty much, and I don't think this was the plan. I don't think this is what they wanted to do. I think they wanted to put it on Roman a million times. I think that, obviously, I think that's what the case was. Okay. But for whatever, for reasons we've already discussed a million times, they didn't do it. All right. But they pretty much, it's like beating somebody into submission. They pretty much wore us all down to the point where it's like, okay, just put it on Reigns. Just do it. And that's exactly what they did. And if you're, and we all know Vince wanted this for so long and everything, but if you're Vince, that had to be the most anticlimactic way to put a title on somebody. There was no drama to it. If you look at the build-up to that match, okay? If you look up the build-up to that match, that did not feel like the build-up to the so-called big moment of Roman Reigns beating Brock Lesnar. Did it? And even the way that the match went and even the aftermath of it, it felt like just if Roman Reigns had beaten, if Roman Reigns had beaten Kevin Owens or Miz on a random Raw, it didn't, it just didn't feel special. Like you would, if you coordinated, when Cena used to win, it felt more special. This felt like, let's just do it and get it over with. Let's do it in a way where we don't get a hugely negative reaction. Let's dangle Braun Strowman to distract people and call it a day. So it's like, we know the crowd doesn't want it, but we just want to get it done and over with. And it makes you wonder if Brock didn't have to leave the company for a few months, because he's going to be back. That much is evident. They even brought up the rematch last night. He's going to be back. He'll go have his UFC fight. He'll be back for WrestleMania. That's the sense I get. But here's what you got to think about. If Brock Lesnar didn't have to leave for a couple months for his UFC fight, they would have kept the title on him and kept trying to figure out a way to make that Reigns coronation what they wanted it to be. But they didn't have that luxury anymore, and they didn't want Strowman to get it before Reigns. It's really what it came down to. I mean, how bad is it when even the people that wanted the title on Reigns couldn't? They just like, well, let's just get it over with. That's what happened. It's insane. It's insane. So you have that grand moment. Strowman doesn't cash in. You get off the air quick, and then we fast forward to Raw last night, which was a pretty good Raw. You had the Ronda Rousey thing, which really was just paying lip service to people. Anybody that wants to criticize her for, criticize the idea that Ronda's the division. People, they want to make it look like Ronda's all about everybody and typical face pandering stuff. We see that with Cena all the time. And what's this, you Stephanie? People think Stephanie's another person that tries to steal attention. Oh, what's you Stephanie? People will cheer Ronda because they're cheering Ronda anyway, but they're trying to push Ronda more. So by having her say what a lot of people say, what the average person or average fan says, it's going to help. I mean, but it was an effective segment, I thought. And you had a couple other things go on. Like I said about Brock, they had the brief Kurt Angle Paul Heyman interaction, which really set up the idea that Brock Lesnar won't get a rematch for a long, long time. So there you go there, as I mentioned earlier. And then Kurt Angle was sent on a vacation. Baron Corbin is now the GM, temporary GM. So that was an interesting development. They had Finn. They set up Finn and Roman Reigns, which had a great match. And that was the biggest development of the night. Ambrose obviously had his first match with Ziggler. That was the biggest development of the night because Finn and Roman have this great match, and they kind of set it up where Roman was taking his eyes off of Finn because Strowman came out there. They did the Strowman thing again, which again was just a way for him to kind of get the crowd distracted. And, he beats Finn, and then you're thinking Braun's going to cash in. He takes Roman out, and then here comes the Shield. Ambrose and Rollins come out in Shield gear, Shield theme, and nobody knows what's really going on because obviously people popped for it. But then you got the Shield 3-on-1 against Braun Strowman. Now, we had the same scenario last year, and both stayed faces. The Shield guys were faces, and Braun Strowman was a face. But here you were, the crowd was ready for the cash-in again. And the crowd's even more behind Strowman because they want the title off of Reigns. But there's also, Strowman's got a big fan base now. And here's the Shield helping Reigns fend him off. So what are you supposed to make of that? Is that it? I mean, what is that? Is this just them standing by Roman Reigns? Is it a heel? What is that supposed to be? And that's kind of the questions they left you with to go into next week. And it's not a one-off because they're selling new Shield merchandise everywhere. And obviously people are criticizing it because now they're like, well, you know what? Rollins was the hot, if not Strowman, he was the next hottest face on Raw. You're going to kill his reactions now because he's going after Strowman, helping Reigns, fend off Strowman. Ambrose's return's been ruined because now he's going to be sacrificed for Roman Reigns, just like Rollins is. So you got people already criticizing this. Now, look, could it be interesting? Yes. Is it? I mean, look, the title's back on the show. It could add some elements to it. Yeah, it's great. But could it also be a complete train wreck? Oh, yeah. And I guess we'll find out next week. So, some big developments coming out of SummerSlam last night on Raw. Again, helps that the Universal title's back on the show. Helps that we had some title changes. Finally, some things that were stagnant have come alive. And you had that same feeling on SmackDown tonight. Some title changes really did help. Obviously, one of the big highlights of SummerSlam was Becky Lynch turning heel on Charlotte, which really was teased in interviews. You could see that Becky was pushing the whole frustration that Charlotte was added to her match. You saw it, so you kind of wondered if that was going to play into things, and it did. And now you got Becky Lynch, who's turned heel, which I thought needed to happen if you were going to run what you were going to run. Now, so again, that was one of the big changes among other changes. Now, you come into SmackDown tonight, you got the Eric Rowan situation. Eric Rowan injured. And the idea going tonight was they're running a no DQ match with New Day. There's going to be a title change because apparently he might be gone for 6 months. I think last I heard it was a bicep thing. And there was a title change tonight on SmackDown. And it was in a no DQ match. New Day won the match to become SmackDown Tag Team Champion. Eric Rowan is apparently headed to Alabama to undergo surgery to repair a biceps tear. The injury was suffered during their SummerSlam match on Sunday. And that's the 5. The New Day are now 5-time Tag Team Champions, if you're counting. So, look, you can't do anything about that. I'm kind of surprised they stuck with the Bludgeon Brothers as long as they did. I'm glad they did because they've done a great job. But, look, you can't do anything about it. There's an injury. You kind of have to do something about it, and that's what they did. So you give them, it is what it is. So that you had that title change tonight. In addition to that, you had some stuff with Miz and Maurice and Daniel Bryan, and they announced the first match for Hell in a Cell, which is going to be a mixed tag. Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella versus Miz and Maurice. So there's that, and and I mentioned this earlier. That's a way to extend this feud because I think they're going to try to drag this feud out now. So you drag this feud out another month. They had the Australia show. I don't know what they'll run there. Miz versus Bryan again. I don't know if they'll run it there or not. You know, you could even run something at Survivor Series where they're on different teams, or on the same team. It furthers the match. If you can find a way to drag this into the winter, into WrestleMania, and get the WWE Championship in this, go for it. I think that might be what they're trying to do. So I don't have any problems. This is a way to extend it. It's a smart way to extend it, so no issues with that. Becky Lynch explained her attack, which we all knew was going to happen. Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton had a match where Randy Orton won by DQ. Let's see what else is here. Just a couple tag team segments. Peyton Royce, not anything big there. Rusev and Lana won a rematch where it's Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega. There was some big stuff. Joe attacked AJ. And the New Day was the main event. So, which you figured would happen. If they were going to win, that was probably going to be the case. So, some developments on SmackDown. I don't know if it was as big as Raw, but there's some developments. A couple changes to Super Showdown. John Cena's match has been changed. He will team with Bobby Lashley to face Elias and Kevin Owens at the show on October 6th. So I wonder if there's an injury somewhere with somebody, because usually when they do that, I don't think the injury's with Cena because he hasn't been working. So I wonder if there's something with Owens after that, because they had Owens work the quick match at SummerSlam. And to my knowledge, I don't think Owens has worked any matches on Raw or SmackDown of late. Not SmackDown, Raw of late. So, food for thought. And he wasn't on the show last night either. So, food for thought. Let's see what else. Oh, they also announced The Miz versus Daniel Bryan for SmackDown, with the winner receiving a future WWE title shot. There you go. So they're going to put the title in that feud. I'm calling that right now. That's why they're extending the feud. So that makes sense. And it was also announced that the Shield will be in action at Super Showdown, but no opponents were named. So we have 3 matches announced, and the fact that the Shield will be in action at that event. So Miz versus Daniel Bryan, #1 contenders match. Triple H versus The Undertaker. John Cena and Bobby Lashley versus Elias and Kevin Owens. That's for the Super Showdown event in Australia on October 6th. And obviously they built up Triple H, Undertaker last night on Raw too. Triple H gave a great promo there. So some developments with the Super Showdown event, and obviously there's been some developments with Evolution, the all women's pay-per-view coming up in October. We now know that Trish Stratus will be facing Alexa Bliss at that show. There's a rumor going on that Ronda Rousey will be main eventing that show with Nikki Bella. There's also a rumor about Asuka facing Lita at that show. Those 2 matches, the final 2 matches I mentioned, have not been confirmed, but there's been rumors. Alexa Bliss versus Trish Stratus has been confirmed. So we'll have to see what happens with that event. But so far, that's coming into focus now. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of a theme of legends versus current roster, which I can get behind. It's a nice way to kind of make sure that there's a lot of attention on that pay-per-view. So there's been quite a bit. Obviously, with SummerSlam comes a lot of big developments, and obviously, and I know most people think the build to WrestleMania starts for the Royal Rumble season, but really it starts now. You start to get an idea of directions and where they're going to go and all that. So usually when you start hearing the first ideas for what they're going to do at Mania. So that's why SummerSlam time is a pretty active time of lots going on. So, and we've already seen a lot going on over these last couple of days. So a lot of big developments and lots of stuff. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward, especially now that Raw has their world title back. So that's and that's going to really help that show. So always good, always good. to have a title on your show, obviously. And we've been talking a lot about that over the last couple months, but it's good to finally have it back on the show. That's going to really help help Raw, I think. In addition to the fact that, again, both shows, I think, are going to be helped by the fact that there's been a lot of changes, title changes, and developments to freshen things up, because I think they both needed that. So it's good that they got it. All right, so that's the wrestling. We'll see what happens on next week, and obviously talk about next week. To close tonight, we're going to jump back into sports where we started the show and do some baseball. But before I get into some of the big highlights of the week, we got to talk about what's the developments of today with the Washington Nationals, who have signaled that they are giving up on the season. Now, this is not because I know some people are going to say, well, wait a minute, they only traded Adams to the Cardinals, and they only traded Murphy to the Cubs. And they didn't really get much back for him. It was more like, hey, we put him on waivers. Listen, they did not get a lot back for him, which adds to the absurdity of what they did today. Okay? Because the least they can do is try to get as much back for him as possible. Before somebody says, well, that's all they did, their owner released a letter admitting that they gambled on July 31st and not making more changes and not deciding that this year wasn't the year. They gambled by not making moves and not essentially saying, we got to build for the future here and see where we're going to go. He's had the owner himself, who wants to win. He's 86 years old, Mr. Lerner. He wants to win badly. He did not want to give up on this season. The owner issued a letter talking about the players they traded today and how much he likes them, talking about how disappointed they are, but they have to build for the future and how they're going to try, they're going to make every effort to be competitive next year, which I just do not see. This is a fire sale. They are giving up on this season. Now, look, they can signal this, they can make trades, and it could have the opposite effect. We saw that with the Yankees a couple years ago. They made trades, and they stayed in it to the end of the season. Minnesota Twins last year, gave up on the season, and they make the wild card game. So just because you signal this and make moves and you trade some of your big players does not mean that your season's over. It could turn around. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? Look what happened. It's rare, but it can happen. But the fact is, the Nationals today pretty much said we're done. We're going to start to dismantle this team. We're going to see what we can get for what we have, keep whatever assets we think are part of the solution going forward, and we're going to see what we can do for next year. Now, they're saying that they want to try to be competitive next year. So they said they're not in rebuilding mode. Werner said they weren't in rebuilding mode, which I can understand because he wants to win. He's older. He wants to win. Werner's saying we are not in rebuilding mode. Pretty much means is a signal that they're going to go hard after Bryce Harper in the offseason. That they're looking at this as, we want to keep this guy. And it probably means they're not going to look to move Max Scherzer. It probably means they're going to make more ancillary moves, like what they did today with Murphy and Adams. They're not going to trade the big guys. They're going to trade a lot of the guys around those big guys. They can maybe get a few pieces here and there for. And also, they claimed that today was more about salary reduction and making flexibility for salary reasons, which explains why they didn't get a lot back for them, because they pretty much just wanted to get their salaries off the books. So now, why do I think that this is absurd? Because based on what I just said, you should say, "Oh, that seems sensible." All right, you know what? That seems reasonable. They're going to try to run and keep Bryce Harper. They're going to try to be competitive. What's so absurd about this? You say they are the exact amount of games back that they were on July 31st. They are playing the Phillies right now, the team that's in front of them. And here's the thing, that it's not just about records sometimes. You have to take everything into account. The two teams that are above you, if you're the Nationals, are young teams that could easily tighten up in September. You play these teams. You're doing the unbalanced schedule. You play these teams a lot. You have opportunities to gain games. 7 games back is not an insurmountable amount. They're playing the Phillies tonight, and they're winning tonight. I mean, this is what I'm saying. You take a couple games here. If you take a couple games here tonight, then all of a sudden you're here. You're right there. With more games to play in September. I don't understand it. If you didn't trade these guys before the deadline when you could have gotten more for them to begin with, why are you trading them now when you're going to get less? And when you still have more games on the schedule, the Braves are having troubles right now. They're starting to sink. The Phillies have had their share of issues. These two teams are not, this is not like you're in the same division as the Yankees and the Red Sox. These two teams in front of you are young, inexperienced teams that could easily go into a swoon in the end of the season. When you're the team that's the experienced team. You've done this before. You haven't gotten past out of the first round, but you can at least get yourself to the playoffs. Why give up now when you didn't on July 31st? Why now when you don't get as much back for your assets? Just very misguided, very absurd to me. Do not get it. Don't understand it. And if now look, as I said before, I can be shut up by the fact they go out there and win 3 out of 4 from the Phillies. Or they go out there and if the Nationals go win 10 of 12 and all of a sudden they're 3 games back next week, okay? This can all work out in their favor. Like I said before, we've seen it where teams start to make trades and dismantle their team, and all of a sudden they get hot and things go, and even make the playoffs. It's rare, but it can happen. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a stupid thing to do. Now, what would I have done? First of all, I think, and I know he's a first-year manager, and he's wanted this job for. I understand that, but I would have made a managerial change. I would have got rid of Martinez. The Nationals have done it before. They've gotten rid of a manager in his first year. You let go of Dusty Baker because you thought he wasn't doing the job for you. He got you to the first round of playoffs. Dusty always gets his teams to playoffs. He does not have good playoff success. He's gotten to the World Series before. That's about it. But you kind of were like, well, this is all Dusty Baker's fault. Well, Dusty Baker got your team to the playoffs. Now you're 7 games out with 6 weeks to go, and you don't look like you're going to make the playoffs, and you're admitting defeat. You said it was the manager's fault. Well, evidently it wasn't the manager's fault. All they've had this year is clubhouse issues. They've let guys go for things. I mean, they've had a terrible year with locker room issues, clubhouse issues. That's a sign that the manager is not respected. That's not good. You look at what the Cardinals did. They get rid of their manager and they soar. And now they're very much in play for the playoffs when a couple weeks ago we didn't think they were. I'm going to step away real quick. We'll be right back. Sorry about that, folks. Just had to step away for a moment. We're back, and we're talking about the Washington Nationals and their real fire sale that they started here today, and essentially giving up on the season. Um, as I was saying, if I were me, I would have made the managerial change because obviously these guys don't respect them. That's what clubhouse issues stem from. He's not even, it doesn't look like he's even getting to the point that Dusty Baker got him to. Why not do what the Cardinals did? Why not do what we've seen other teams do and make a change? And sometimes it lights a fire under your team. They play better. And it's a signal to them that, hey, you know what? Something's not right here this year. Something has to change. And it lights a fire. It can light a fire under your team. And sometimes that's the simplest thing to do. And that's what I would do. I think it would have it would have been very, very, very helpful. It would have been the right thing to do. And you see, and I would have done that I would have done that at the All-Star break. Because I think it's evident it wasn't working. You could tell if you're having that many clubhouse problems, it's been said all year they've been having clubhouse problems. If that's the case, then make a change. Don't say, "Oh, it's his first year." No, and I know they've had injuries. I know they've had a lot of other issues too. But when you hear constantly throughout a season that there's clubhouse issues, then you need to make a change. I'm sorry, just do. Because this is a guy that's a rookie manager. This is not like we're not talking about like a Joe Torre or a Bobby Cox or a Mike Scioscia or somebody like that. Somebody that's experienced and you kind of say, let's just see if he can wait his way through this. No, this is an inexperienced manager. I wouldn't have taken the chance on it. I would have said, you know what, something's not working here. The chemistry's off. We got clubhouse problems. We need to make a change here to see if we can salvage this season. You do it right around the All-Star break, and then he gives you a couple weeks before the trade deadline to see if the team responds. If they don't, then you start a fire sale. If they do, then you wait and see what happens. But the Nationals have always kind of looked like they're always unsure about what they want to do. They always look like, hey, you know what? It's like they always look at their caught in between of what they want to do. Well, should we get rid of the manager? Should we not? Should we do this? Should we not? It's like they're very indecisive and they struggle to figure. They don't have a good feel for their team, their front office. They kind of just like, it's like what are we going to do? Are we going to do this? You can tell that, and maybe there's a conflict there. Maybe there's a vision difference there. Maybe, I don't know, but you could tell that there's a lack of, I won't say lack of urgency because they clearly want to win. They really do want to win, but I think that it's almost like there's this like they just don't know day to day what they want to do. Sometimes they're just caught between. This is a team over the last 5 or 6 years that's had so much talent, and the fact that they haven't gotten out of the first round of the playoffs is astounding. It shouldn't happen. I just don't get what they did today. I don't get what they've done this year. But it is what it is. They what they did today was they gave up on their season. So, look, can they make a run? We'll see. They're winning tonight. Can they make a run? Even though they've signaled that they're giving up on this season, yeah, we'll see. They can do it, but we'll see what happens. But it's obvious that today, they don't think they're capable. They thought they were on the 31st. They still thought they had the talent, and they do. They still do today. But now they don't. They think it's over. And I think it is too, but they could always surprise you. So we'll see if they do. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that little bit of a break there. This is what happens when you're the only person technically on the air. When you don't have a co-host, you can't really, we don't have commercials. All you can really do is step away when you have something that has to go be dealt with. So that's what I had to do. So I apologize for that. It was a little bit of a lengthier interruption than I was anticipating, but it is what it is. Plus, I have a 6-month baby at home, 6 month old baby at home. So things happen. All right, so let's just finish what we were discussing here. We're talking about where things stand here in baseball, and I talked about the Nationals and where they stand. Here as you enter again, we're in the final 5 weeks of the season. Just about most teams are down about 30 some odd games. And let's see where we stand tonight. Because like I said, to Nationals, we're beating the Phillies tonight. The Braves have fallen on tough times. The Phillies have fallen on tough times. I talked about why I thought it was absurd that the Nationals gave up now, because they're really where they were on July 31st. If you look at the standings in the NL East, they are 8 games out. They're about, I think they were 7.5 on July 31st, if I'm correct. And the wild card standings, the Nationals are, let's see where they're at, 6.5 out. So they're a game better than I think they were. I think they were 7 out on July 31st. So they're pretty much right where they were. So that's why partly why it's so absurd. But anyway, let's look at the wild card stand, because that's usually where a lot of the interesting races are. In the National League, the Brewers are up a half game on the Phillies and the Cardinals, and that's what I've talked about. The Cardinals have been red hot. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They are now tied for the second wild card. It's unheard. It's unbelievable given where they were a month ago. And you got the Rockies a half a game out. The Dodgers 2 games out. The Pirates and the Nationals 6.5 out. The Giants 7.5 out. The Giants look like they're about to do what the Nationals are doing now. But at least with the Giants, I get it. I get why because that NL West has been wide open. I can get it, but the Nationals, I don't get it. I don't get it from the Giants standpoint. The Giants could did the same if they start to unload their guys now. They could have done the same thing on July 31st. Or they're in the exact same position too. So the Giants and the Nationals. So I take back what I said. They're both have been absurd this year. And I said on Twitter on July 31st, the Nationals and the Giants are going to regret, and the Mets too are going to regret not making more moves to build for the future, because none of those three were going to make it, even though record-wise and standings-wise, it looked like they had a chance. But anyway, so National League wild card, very, very, very interesting, especially with what's happened with the Cardinals. American League wild card, we've been saying this for the last couple months. It's apparent. For the most part, we kind of know a lot of the teams that are going to go. The Red Sox, the Indians, the Yankees are probably going to be okay. The Astros, we thought, but the Astros have fallen hard. They're 2-8 in their last 10. They are now tied with the A's at the top of not only the AL West, but in the wild card standings. Well, obviously, and Seattle is 3.5 out in the wild card standings, and they are in the AL West. Seattle is 3.5 out of the division. So that's obviously the AL West, obviously a close race, and the AL wild card, obviously a close race. And the Yankees trying to hold on there as well. And the Yankees now, the Red Sox lost again tonight, and the Yankees won. They are now 8 out of the American League East. So, compared to where they were a month ago, that's pretty bad. But compared to where they were a week ago, it's pretty good. And look, if you're the Yankees here, with all your injuries, and they apparently have more tonight. Chapman looks like he left the game with an injury. I think Robertson's hurt. Obviously, Didi Gregorius now hurt. We'll see when he comes back. Yankees are banged up, but they're playing bad teams right now. So, if the Yankees can take advantage of their schedule, even banged up, they still have enough guys to get the job done. With the Red Sox playing the Indians next couple of days, you got an opportunity here. This thing is not over. I was telling people off the air, I think 2 weeks ago, if the Yankees can go in at about 5 games back on September 1st, before the West Coast swing that they have, if they're 5 games back on September 1st, they have a shot. They have a shot. And then by the time they play the Reds, I think the next time they play the Red Sox is September the 18th. I would think you'd want to be around 3 games out by that point. If you can be in that position, you have a very good chance because you got 6 games left with them. Very good chance. So they're not out of it yet, but right now the Red Sox have a very good lead, and they Chris Sale's on the DL. They played that cautious, which they have a right to, And here's the thing though that I'd like to mention, because a lot of people have been asking me, well, the Red Sox could break the win. Nothing is guaranteed. All right, they've lost 3 games. They have been hot for a very long time. If you look at the season, they started out red hot, right, and then they kind of went through that period right around the time that the Yankees got hot. I think the Yankees did the same thing to them that the Red Sox did. What was it, like 19-3 or something? I don't know what it was, 18-1, something like that. But they had the same exact record that the Red Sox had when they had their hot streak. And then both teams just played really good at the same time for a little bit. And then right around July 1st, after the Yankees took 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox, the Red Sox went on this ridiculous run, which was still going up until this weekend, while the Yankees kind of nosedived a little bit because of injuries and a lot of other things. You have to here's what you got to take into account. With the Red Sox, even the 1998 Yankees had their bumps. Even the 2001 Mariners had their bumps. The best teams have had their bumps in the road. The Red Sox really have not had a true bump in the road this season yet. They just haven't. Even their bump in the road back in May wasn't really a bump. You've seen, again, the 98 Yankees had a terrible September. Look what happened last year. The Dodgers, remember a couple years ago, the Dodgers ran that ridiculous run, and then they fell apart in September. The Indians last year went on a ridiculous run at the end of the season. And look what it did in the playoffs for them. You just don't know. Eventually, you're going to come back down to earth, even if you're a great team. And the Red Sox are a great team. But eventually, you're going to come back down to earth. You just hope that you have enough to sustain throughout that. And they built themselves a sizable lead here. But they do have some tough teams to play. The Yankees do too. Lots been made of their schedule. They got a good schedule the next couple of weeks. Tough, easy schedule the next couple of weeks. But then they got a tough West Coast swing. And they got to play. And look, they've had trouble with the Orioles and the Rays. And they got some games left with those 2 teams. They have not played well against them. So that's not easy for them either. But like I said, if you're the Yankees, if you can get to September 1st and be 5 games or less out, and about 3 games or less out before you play the Red Sox again, that's terrific. You have a chance. That's what you want to do. You want to give yourself a chance. And right now, they're 8 back, 7 in the loss column. They have a chance if they can make some inroads here in the next couple weeks. The Indians are starting to get hot now, but they don't have to worry about their division's long gone, but they're starting to get hot now. You're starting to see the Indians come into their own a little bit. We talked about the NL East. NL West, we already talked about a little bit. The Dodgers are 2.5 games out in third. Rockies a game out of first. Diamondbacks are in first right there in that division. Giants are in fourth, 8 games back. They're not probably going to make any run here, but that West is up for grabs, as is the NL wild card. That's going to be a fascinating race. The NL Central is going to be a fascinating race. The Cubs at the top, but the Brewers 2.5 back. The Cardinals charging at 3 back. The Pirates had a very nice little run right around the trade deadline. They were on fire, and then they just fell off. But so you don't factor them in anything, but still a good race. 3-team race in the Central, 3-team race in the NL West. It could be. I mean, look, if the Nationals do some damage here, it could become a 3-team race in the NL. As it stands right now, it's a 2-team race. So and in the AL, you have a 3-team race in the West, a 2-team race. I still call it a race because I think the Yankees can make a push here. So it's still a 2-team race in the East. Wild card, the Yankees are up 3.5 on the Astros and the Athletics, but still that's not a give me there. So essentially, you got to call it a 4-team race in the AL wild card and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really a 5-team race. But I don't think you can really call the Pirates and the Nationals totally out, and I mean maybe not the Giants either. They could all still make a push, but I'll call it a 5-team race with 3 teams kind of right there that could potentially jump in. So really, look, a month ago I thought everything was a foregone conclusion. Yeah, it's not. Um, and now here we stand as we're about to approach the last week of August with a lot of races and some interesting stuff going on. The National League has a lot of teams in it. The American League has some interesting stuff going on. We'll see where we are on September 1st. It could get very, very interesting. And injuries are piling up for a number of teams. We talked about the Yankees and the injuries they have. You know, Suzuki got hit by the on the Braves tonight. Yu Darvish shut down with stress reaction and an elbow. Buster Posey's facing season history, which is probably why the Giants think the season's over. I mean, there's injuries all over the place, and that's affecting things. And this is what I'm talking about. For all the talk of, oh, these players need rest, a day rest, they're going to be fine, they'll play well and everything. Look at all the injuries. To me, it doesn't matter if you get rest. It doesn't matter how long to see, how many off days, doesn't matter. Does not matter. Injuries are still going to happen. So, just the way it is. But things are getting interesting down the stretch here for the playoff run. Very interesting. I didn't get the chance to talk about my thoughts about what happened with the Marlins and the Braves last week, which I thought between Urena and Ronald Acuna. First of all, I should put this in the show description because I would like to, I think it's something I would like to promote that we're going to talk about. But I just didn't think of it. It's been a lot of things been going on this week. What Urena did was completely and utterly out of hand. Shouldn't be allowed to happen. Major League Baseball is wrong to have not done more about it in the last week. This guy should have been suspended. They're going to play each other again, the Braves and the Marlins, this weekend. So, we'll see what happens there. But, and really, if you don't want anything to happen there, you suspend the guy. But I have the feeling the Marlins ain't going to pitch him because they're not going to want anything to happen. But anyway, look, I don't blame the Marlins for that. I don't think it came from them. It's a coward thing to do, what Urena did. Well, we haven't been able to get this guy out. This guy's having Acuna is having a great season. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't show up the opponent. There's no reason, even if he did, there's no justification for this. Oh, I can't get the guy out, so I'm going to hit him. No. You want to back him off the plate? Fine. You back him off the plate. You don't have to hit him. And you don't hit him. And the guy, and way to make it, and he wasn't even subtle about it. The guy doesn't throw 97, but he threw 97 on that pitch, which is intent. It's intent to hurt. It's intent to send a message. That is wrong. Not only is that wrong, but it's dangerous. And that's not. And look, that's not the kind of player I want playing for my team. That's not the kind of player that should be allowed to play. Something needs to be done about it. This whole. Oh, I believe in the old school way of knocking somebody off the plate, but I do not believe in headhunting, and that was borderline headhunting. That was intent. There should not be intent to injure, or it shouldn't be intent to hit. You want to knock somebody off the plate and they happen to get hit, that's fine. You don't have to hit somebody to send a message. Knock them off the plate. Throw it inside. Get them to back off. That's all you have to do. It's a simple thing. To do that on the first pitch of the game. Terrible. Terrible. The Marlins seemed upset about it, as they should be. The Braves rallied around their play, which was a great thing to see. It can bond the team. I just thought it was revolting. I thought it was disgusting. And I wish the MLB did more about it. I really do. It's terrible. So, and it just boggles your mind that nothing's been done about this in the last week. I apologize. I'm trying to hear what's going on with Chapman here. So apparently, okay, so where we're at with Chapman, he exited the game after 6 pitches for the Yankees. And he's going to have an MRI tomorrow. They're going to check the knee. Apparently, it's the same pain he's been dealing with all season. He called the trainer out there this time. So he left the game after 6 pitches, called the trainer out. Did not, and they're going to do an MRI tomorrow. Apparently, it's the same knee that's been bugging him. They want to make sure that nothing's going on there, that he hasn't, it makes sure that he hasn't done anything more to it, that the injury's not worse. So that's where they're at with Chapman. So I wanted to hear that because I've seen a lot of people talk about that on Twitter and everything. So, all right. So going back to where I was at with, it's a disgusting situation. I can't believe that Major League Baseball hasn't done more about it. And I think they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something. They can't allow this kind of old school mentality because with the way guys throw now, and it's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's such a bad example. It's wrong. You do not have to hit a player. And I'm sorry, anybody that thinks that, anybody that over the last week has defended that is wrong. Just bottom line. So, just an ugly incident, something that baseball doesn't need. And at Major League Baseball, it should be a shame that they haven't done more about it since the incident happened. And I hope that they do something about it as we go along here and to discourage that kind of behavior, because that behavior is not needed in the game. It's disgusting. It does not need to happen. All you need to do is just brush somebody off the plate. That's all you need to do. You do not need to do what Urena did there. Terrible. Terrible. So an ugly incident for baseball, but on the plus side for baseball, lots of playoff drama going on, lots of compelling narratives going on. That's what you want, and that's what you want to focus on here. And hopefully that will continue as we go through September, so we can have a great end to the season. Because that's what you want to see. In the last couple of years, with the wild card game, it hasn't been. Compared to that last year before the wild card game, where it was so awesome to watch all the big developments. Now, last few years we haven't had that. Well, look, this year on paper, it looks like we could be set up to have some very big drama as we go down the stretch, and that's what you want. That's really what you want. So hopefully that will be the case. All right, so I've been distracted. I apologize. Again, I've been trying to figure out the injury stuff here on Chapman because I got the Yankee Marlin game and I wanted to hear the press conference, so I apologize for that. Lots, when you have things, we like to do that sometimes when you have live stuff, news and stuff. We want to try to get you that. So, and there's people talking about it on Twitter, and I figured I'd try to get that update for y'all. So, if you're a Yankee fan, even if you're not a Yankee fan, but I care about hearing about that. So, all right. So we've done everything we have to do for tonight. That's it for the show. As always, the show might be over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting. Continue to show. Continue to have your voice heard. Continue to send us your feedback, questions about the show, scheduling the show, topic ideas, and breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling that you want us to cover. Anything to do with the TV awards, questions or comments, you can do those by email, Facebook, or Twitter. But again, any submissions, whether it's a live award nomination submissions or if it's winning ballot submissions, those can only be done by email only. So please keep them in mind. So email address for the show, itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding the show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. Make sure you like our fan page once you're on it, or once you find it, I should say, so you can interact with us and all that good stuff. Again, please do follow us on social media for the latest updates about the show, any postponements, delays, any kind of stuff like that, or any, we also post random stuff on there as well. you want to interact with us, any of those things you can do on our social media. So you want to make sure that you follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at IT Spotlight 411. Remember to use the hashtag IT Spotlight 411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And again, on Facebook, just search for In the Spotlight 411 and make sure that you follow us on Facebook. 2 ways to keep up with the show. Look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. You'll be taking those show pages on both those sites, where you can stream any of the episodes we've ever produced in the when you can stream any of the episodes we produced for Google Plus and YouTube, which is any episode we produced since mid-October 2015, right up until tonight's current episodes. That's what's available for you to stream anytime you want on Google Plus and YouTube. To search for In the Spotlight 411. If streaming's not your thing, maybe prefer to listen to us rather than see us on screen. Maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. If that's the case, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Search for In the Spotlight 411. When you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you'll have access to every episode we've done in your 8 years been doing the show. So it's every episode from original Blog Talk Radio 1 from October 2010 and January 2011. All of our talk show episodes from January 2011, all the way up to mid-October 2015. And all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes mid-October 2015, all the way up to tonight's current episode. All those episodes available in audio format for your convenience, and listed from the most recent date, that being tonight, all the way to the oldest, way back in October 2010. Those episodes available for you to listen to anytime you want. Listen to them on the go, listen to them at home. Maybe you want to check out an old episode from a few years ago for the first time, or you're a long-time fan, want to check out an old episode again, or you're keeping up with current episodes. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. To search In the Spotlight 411. Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, and Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 and to search for In the Spotlight 411 on all of those sites. Before we do shout outs, I want to briefly take a moment to mention 2 names. We lost 2 people this week that I want to mention here. The first name tonight is a producer by the name of, hang on a second, folks. I just found my screen just froze here. All right. Okay, so I want to briefly mention, sorry about that, my screen just wasn't working right. Craig Zadin. He was a producer. He produced several of the Oscar telecasts, the 85th, 86th, 87th editions, Smash, all of NBC's live musicals, Footloose, Hairspray, Chicago, The Bucket List. He died following complications for shoulder replacement surgery. He was a very good producer. Musically, he was, again, he loved musicals. He helped bring him back to TV. He was very influential in that. He was a great producer. And it's just a tough day for the theater community. They lost Barbara Harris, Brian Murray, who was a stage actor, a lot of Vivian Madhavan, who was a director, and then Craig Zadin, who brought musicals back to TV, as I said. Is a great man, great producer, very well respected, a very unexpected passing, and just a devastating loss. And we want to extend our condolences to his family, friends, and loved ones. May he rest in peace. He's a true loss. It's a very, very, he was a Tony nominated, very, very influential producer and a very good man. And we want to express our condolences again. May he rest in peace. And of course, Aretha Franklin. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention her. The Queen of Soul. If you don't know who Aretha Franklin is, well, I don't know what to tell you. Just an amazing, amazing woman. an icon. And that day, I mean, look, that day has not been good to icons. The day she passed, August 16th. Elvis Presley died that day. You know, this not good day for icons. Amazing woman. You know, from her big songs, Respect, Natural Woman. I can name so many. Just, you know, and you talk about how influential she was and how charismatic she was and how she commanded your respect just by walking into a room. She had an ambiance about her, an aura about her, just a class act, a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman and singer. And that's one of the that is one of the biggest losses that not in music history, but in American history. She's she's a you know, just a tremendous figure, and she did so much, so much. And by 1960, and in 1960, she was called the Queen of Soul. 112 charted singles on Billboard. You know, she was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1987, National Medal of Arts, Presidential Medal of Freedom. I mean, we could go on and on. And again, a lot of health problems, and she fought them all off until the end. She's just a tremendous figure and just a huge loss, huge loss. So we, as always, well, you know, express our condolences to her family and friends and her loved ones, her fans, and may she rest in peace. That's a huge loss, a huge loss. Aretha Franklin, just a huge loss for music, for the country, the world, really. So, and she will be missed. So I wanted to acknowledge those two losses here at the end of the show. All right, with that being said, I want to give a shout out to my co-host, Mike. He's still a co-host, even though he hasn't been here all summer. He's continuing his job situation. It's been kind of hard for him to be on the show. He misses it, but things are tough right now. Had a lot going on. His mom had some health problems. He got the new job. Now his cat has had some health problems. Got to have surgery tomorrow. So our prayers and thoughts are with him. And hopefully things will continue to get better for him, and hopefully his cat will be okay. So just want to give a shout out to him and hope everything gets better for him. On a superficial note, thank myself for another great show and pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that'll be watching, listening to this later, thank you to you as well. That is it for tonight. Our next show will be 1 week from tonight on August the 28th. Broadcasting and streaming live at 9 o'clock from Eastern time. Hopefully we'll start at that time because we have a lot to do that night. We got some announcements to make. I'll talk about some announcements related to the show. We'll do some stuff. College football beginning on the way. We might do some stuff with that. We'll see. We'll do some baseball because obviously things will be continuing to heat up with the pennant races and playoff runs here. We'll talk obviously do some wrestling, Raw Smackdown. We'll do some entertainment, box office beat, all that good stuff coming at you 1 week from tonight on August 20th. Remember that night, live award nomination submissions are due, as well as winning ballots for the TV awards are due. All that due for the TV awards next Tuesday by 9 o'clock from Eastern time on August the 28th. So make sure that you get that in a week from tonight at 9 o'clock from Eastern time. Make sure you get those in. Again, those by email only. Do not make submissions for live award nominations or for winning ballots by email, by Facebook or Twitter. They will not be accepted, only by email. You can ask us questions on Facebook and Twitter, but do not make submissions on Facebook and Twitter, please. All right, so keep all that in mind. So make sure those deadlines are, make sure you acknowledge those deadlines. Again, next Tuesday, August 28th, 9 o'clock Eastern time, live award nomination submissions and winning ballot submissions due for the In the Spotlight TV Awards, 9 o'clock Eastern time next Tuesday. That's also when we'll have our next show. So until then, I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, a great weekend, a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here 1 week from tonight, Tuesday, August the 28th at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time for our next show. Until then, have a good night, everybody.